Near mint condition, the home of collected editions. I can't believe they're giving us manga in this format. It's insane. And it's still ongoing. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of 3 different kind of manga series from Kana books. That's right, we're going to be looking at 3 different series today. Join me. Welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Kana Books for sending us a copy of these particular titles. And what we are looking at here are 3 different series, 2 that have wrapped up, and 1 that is still ongoing and that I'm going to need your help with. The very first thing I want to do, though, is talk about actually the build of these books and how different they are compared to something like other tankobon released by different companies. And they're even different than each other. As you can see, Leviathan is taller than both of these particular titles. So Leviathan overall is taller than the tankobon from Dark Horse and Viz, and also longer. Now, one thing that these do have, and even these are different, I forgot to mention, this has a glossy finish to the dust jacket, while his Manhole has a flat finish to it. And yes, I said dust jacket because each one of these has a dust jacket, and we'll look more into that here in a second. That is really freaking cool. They make it seem like they're a little bit more classier than just regular tankobons. They are trade paperbacks, each one of these are. So let's actually today talk about Leviathan first, and then we'll move on to Eden of Witches, and then Manhole. But we'll talk about the series without going too much into spoilers. Leviathan, Volume 1, and it is a total of 3 volumes, by the way. Here's all the spines. Not only is the book taller than the rest, but they also have this black edging going on right here, which is awesome. I love when books like that stand out. So let's quickly talk about this and remove the dust jacket. So if you saw in the back here, it gives you kind of a little bit of like synopsis as to what this is, and a little bit more in here, and then a word from the author. And every one of these does have a dust jacket if you're curious about the books themselves, and they have a very similar, or if not just like an identical pattern on the actual art on board. They all start off the same way, where we have a little bit of color, and then we move into the black and white. So it starts off with these 3 looters in space. They look like they find some kind of robot, and they go inside of a spaceship. And the spaceship is called the Leviathan. And this is actually just separated into 5 chapters. I'm used to so many chapters in a manga, because, you know, mangaka can make different pages, different chapter lengths. So sometimes it can be 8 or 16 or 30. But it's really cool just to see 5 chapters in here. Look at the amount of detail. This is by Shiro Kuroi. And oh my gosh, it is, to me, just awesome. It kind of reminded me, once I give you the premise, of another book, and I'll tell you what it is here once I give you the premise. So we have these 3 looters coming into the spaceship. One of the looters is like, oh, look, a notebook. Actually, it looks like somebody's travel journal. And they're talking about how this could be the Leviathan. It was an interstellar ship that was bringing a bunch of people from the colonies of Proxima Centauri to Earth. And then they go and explore the ship because they think, okay, we've hit the motherlode, we've hit the jackpot. This is going to be full of riches. One of the looters begins to read the journal. And through the journal, you get to find out exactly who the passengers are. And what the Leviathan truly is was a ship, a rental ship, actually. A budget rental ship at that. That was rented out by a school. And in here, this is nothing but students and teachers in this particular vessel. So you've got characters like Mr. Senda, he's one of the teachers, and you've got the character of Futaba, And another main character is Kazuma. And then other characters through here like Yo and Satsuki and Roku, just to name a few. But what ends up happening is as they're traveling through here, you get the sense that the character of, at least from what it seems like at the very beginning, that Kazuma gets picked on and just doesn't know how to really interact with the rest of the kids. So what happens is this spaceship ends up getting hit by an asteroid. It's like, it seems like a bunch of asteroids just hit it. And a lot of kids, a lot of people end up getting killed. And what happens is that the remaining members of the spaceship end up surviving because the ship itself takes like a safety protocol by blocking out different sections of the ship. So it's kind of dark. Like, immediately, like, you know, you lose a lot of people. And then you keep going back and forth. You get to go to present day, or what I like to call present day, is where the looters are. And then you get to go back to the past to find out exactly what happened on this ship. Why is there nobody here? Where are the survivors? There's also another teacher named Miss Momose, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So what happens is that the teacher that I mentioned at the very beginning, Mr. Senda, finds out from the droid of the spaceship that they only have enough oxygen for 50 hours to live. The stress call has been sent out, but the droid doesn't think anybody's going to make it in time. He does, however, have a solution, or a temporary, or a bad solution, and that is he shows Mr. Senda a vessel here. And this is something like, it's like cryogenic sleep is what you could go in there, and it will go out. So what it is really is it's a life vessel. It's like a lifeboat, but it only seats one person. So that's when things get dark. And I promise not to talk about the entirety of the series or the book, because I've really, really enjoyed this. I enjoyed all these for different reasons. So two kids overhear them. And of course, the two kids are the ones I mentioned, Futaba and that of Kazuma. Both overhear him. And Futaba's kind of her way of thinking is a lot different than Kazuma's way of thinking. She takes it upon herself to actually, you know, stand up to Mr. Saneda, who's like, you know, you can't let anybody know about this. The kids are going to freak out. So she ends up actually fighting him because she doesn't know what he wants to do. He wants to kill her. So she ends up not just fighting him, but also killing the guy. And because there's lack of oxygen and things are changing in space, you'll see characters like be able to pick up rocks, be able to pick up like just different things that they normally couldn't pick up in here. So that's what ends up happening at the very beginning. It's like you have two characters of Futaba and Kazuma that know that there's only one life vessel left and enough oxygen for 50 hours, and they don't think anybody is coming. But people could still come. There could be a rescue. So the rest of the series, by the way, this first book has 196 pages. In the back, I'll show you what each of these have. This is getting to know the students, and that's all I will show you, because the rest of it shows you the deceased characters. And this one has 196 pages, $14.99. And both volume 2 and 3 have 180 pages, and again, retails for $14.99, and have the same kind of design underneath the dust jacket. So as I was saying, that's kind of what kicks it off. I'll show you just a little bit of the artwork here. It's also the students, like, what happens when they find out that there's only enough oxygen? Do they go Lord of the Flies and just turn on each other? And then, of course, what ends up happening to the looters? I really don't want to talk much more about it, just kind of show you a little bit of the art. What ends up happening to the looters? Do they find the last person alive? Do they find the remains of the students? Did the students really die, or is it all inside of Kazuma's head? That's what this is. It's a psychological thriller. It has, to me at least, it reminds me a lot of a mix between Sentient and The Metallic Rose by Katsuhiro Otomo, which was part of Memories. That's what this is. In the back of volume 2, it's a little bit different because you get character designs, like early illustrations of what some of these characters were supposed to look like. So they look a little bit different. And even in the way the artwork looks, Reminds me of Katsuhiro Otomo. It's an amazing mangaka, man. And then volume 3 shows you the interview, I believe is what this is. Yeah, this is an interview with the mangaka Shido Kuroi. So that's what Leviathan is. Eden of Witches. So far, there are 4 volumes with a 5th one, and I think a 6th one in the catalog. I don't know how long this series is, but oh my gosh. I fell in love with this series so much. This one spoke to me, and I'll just show you the back since we saw the front. Backs don't really tell you much of what the series is about. It's not until you have to open it up and look at the plastic. By the way, open it from the plastic. Each one of these does have a different rating. For example, I forgot to mention that earlier, that the Leviathan series has an older teen rating, while this one has a teen rating. And that's exactly what I was going to say. A lot of manga companies don't tell you the ratings of the books. This one, much like the previous book and the next one, does have a dust jacket. So let's talk about Eden of Witches. Oh man, I fell in love with the series. Alright, let's go ahead and open it up. Eden of Witches, Volume 1, Yumeji, and we're going to look at all the volumes really quick, and Kana books. So it starts off the same way that Leviathan did, with colored pages. The colored pages, by the way, are printed in this thick, glossy paper stock, while the rest are printed in like a newsprint type of paper stock. The beginning here tells you a beautiful story that a long time ago, plants and animals lived in harmony, and then came humans to power and were unable to coexist with nature. Destroyed everything. Exploited all of the food and the animals, so nature decided to take everything away. And it's this world that we're going to be looking at has kind of become a barren wasteland. However, there is the exception. Inside of this, looks to be like a inactive volcano, there are witches. There are oases of witches that are in hiding, because witches still have the power to talk to nature, to use nature, and to talk to animals. But this is where we meet our main protagonist, the girl with the red hair, and this is Peely. Peely is kind of like your witch in training, and she's being raised by this lady right here. And this is Tora. So Tora is kind of like a grandmother figure to her. You don't really know if it's really her grandmother, but she doesn't consider herself a good witch. And Tora also gives her a special mission, or it comes with the seed that she gives her. She gives her a special seed, and she tells her to plant it, and also that there's this magical realm there. There's this place where nature still exists, and it's called Eden. Tora's never been there, but she tells Peely that there is this place and it does exist. And she gives her this seed. And then Peely notices that Tora is sick. So much so that she needs to go, here, I'm going to skip some pages, beautiful artwork in here too, into the village and go and buy some medication. And this is where she runs upon this witch burning that's taken place. So you immediately get the sense of like how villagers, how this world really are treating people that are witches. She runs into this biologist. His name is Zakum right here, that works for the king of this particular kingdom. And he tells her, you know, I want to study plants. I believe you. And take me back to where Tora is and I will help you heal her. So she takes him back. However, he turns out to be a man of science that doesn't believe in witchcraft and brings soldiers with him. And you can probably guess where this is going. He ends up killing Tora right in front of Peely. And this is where Peely kind of activates her powers, her hidden powers. And that seed that Tora gave her becomes this magical creature. This is the wolf known as Oak. And he takes care of the soldiers. I'm going to skip a little bit through here just to give you an idea of what the story is. So she makes a promise to herself because of what Tora told her, that she will find Eden. And that's where she goes on a journey. So the first book is really getting to know these characters of Peely and the character of Oak. But immediately in the next chapters where like she falls down and ends up meeting this young name. What is this young kid's name? Bowie? But he goes by Bo, who lives with his uncle. And again, you get to see the treatment of witches. In the back, there are some sketches, some early designs for the characters that will be part of Eden of Witches. The first book has 184 pages. I'm going to quickly talk about the next the next 3 volumes. This one has 196 pages. These retail for $12.99. Starts off with color pages again. In this particular book, we get to meet another witch in here. And this one is really cool because this is a witch that will train her and kind of become her guide through at least half the book. And that is the witch named Laminala. And then the next part is where she ends up meeting this little girl named, I think this is the Hina. Yeah, this little girl who has powers like her. So you'll get to see other witches and then the people that are coming after them. 196 pages for this one. And this character here reminds me of the character from the Record of Lodoss War. Even in the way that she wears her outfit. This one also has 196 pages. And you also get the sense of, like, who do you trust, right? Like, we saw the crow here. The crow at the very beginning. Yeah, the crow's at the very beginning. This is Krawa, who will become important later on. And we wrap up the Hina story to get to meet this witch right here. This is Frutitilla, who perhaps is a witch or used to be a witch. And you don't know if you should trust her. You don't know if she's trying to help out Peely. And there comes a time when Oak and Peely are separated. And Oak still doesn't know how to treat her because to Oak, his master was Tora. Like, this just happens to be Tora's apprentice. So she ends up getting thrown into this jail cell where she gets to meet Karen. And that will lead into the next book. And this is volume 4. Again, all of these have dust jackets, much like the first volume. And starts off with the color pages. By the way, I always forget that she has red hair. Because when I'm looking at this, for some reason, I think she has blonde hair. I think Karen's the one that has blonde hair. But this is the 4th volume. And this is probably my favorite one. This is the one that makes me want to keep... I hope they continue with the series. But this is where she's trying to help Karen out. And she's sick. She's perhaps poisoned. So she has to travel through different places and ends up seeing a tree where she's trying to get these, well, what they call the Amurds, which are the plants that have special healing abilities, and it's all based on that. This one has 184 pages, but here is where she meets this knight, who doesn't really see himself as a knight anymore. He is now a heretic. His name is Aster, but Aster decides to help her in exchange for something else, which you'll see here. I actually really like the character of Aster. He has a beautiful backstory that I hope we see come back later on. And then, of course, where is this other character that kind of started this whole awful thing that happened to her? Where is Zakum? Does he show up through here? Well, that's all I will say about the series. $12.99 for each of these. And these are rated Teen Plus. And that is Eden of Witches by Yumeji. Manhole by Tetsuya Tsutsui. Volumes 1, 2, and 3. And that's all there is of this particular series. This one's also rated older teen. So let's look at volume 1 and give you the pitch for this particular manga. And this one has 210 pages. And these also retail for $12.99. Let's go ahead and give you an idea of what this is. Manhole 1, Tetsuya Tsutsui. And your table of contents. Doesn't really have color pages. You would jump right into the black and white. And we kick it off in the city of Sasahara, where we have this man, this naked man, it seems like, has just come out of a manhole. And he's just walking around the city bleeding, and it looks like veins are popping on his body. He runs into this character right here of Yoichi Amamiya, and he just kind of throws up in his mouth or face. And that's when a couple of detectives get involved, and that's really what kicks off this weird and creepy series. So we have the character of Detective Ken Mizoguchi, who is part of this investigation, along with Nao Inoue. Now, the character that we mentioned a little bit earlier, the one that got puked on, bled on, I don't know what it was. You'll see here in a little bit. Yoichi Amamiya, he goes and sees his girlfriend, and they have a lovely evening. I'll leave it at that. While there's an autopsy going on with the body that was discovered. And let me just show you what happens. When they're looking at the body of the man that came out of the manhole, it seems like there's movement in his eyes. And what they end up doing is cutting into the eyeball. So it's really gross. Like, if you can't stand this stuff, it's all over the place in this one. And pull out what looks like a parasite. So the rest of the series is about how this parasite is being spread from person to person, including the character of Yoichi Amamiya, who got bled on earlier on, puked on. It seems like the parasite is crawling around in his body, and it's having a weird effect on people, different people. His girlfriend ends up catching it, and they're trying to find out where it began, where the parasite began, and who's carrying it. So it becomes kind of like a worldwide epidemic that starts in Japan, but it is rapidly spreading across Japan. And let me get you the second volume. The second volume, much like the first volume, has 210 pages. This one, volume 3, the last one, it has 226 pages. And again, both of them have dust jackets. So yes, this is definitely body horror, psychological horror, because you don't know exactly what's happening and how it's messing with people's minds and who it's going to infect. I will say not everybody is safe, and there is an explanation if you're wondering like how the parasites even started, who is behind everything. And let me just show you the last volume really quick, just a few pages here. But yes, things are explained in case you're one of those people that are like, no, I need it explained. I need to know what exactly caused this infection and who started it and why. So it's all explained through here, but it does mess with your head. There's images in here that I was like, ugh, that's nasty. And then as far as extras in the back, there's really not that many. They just kind of have a thank you from the mangaka. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcon at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
And that was the content, the page count, and the build of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you have been reading any of these series, or if you've picked up City Hunter, or if you picked up Cat's Eye, and what other series you would love for Kana Books to bring over to America. And if you have any questions, leave those down below. And please let me know how long Eden of Witches goes on, because I have fallen in love with that series, and I want to continue my journey. But that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.